Sick intro, I know. I made it myself. But welcome back to TC Talk Sports. You know what it is. All sports, all the time. NFL Week 3 officially in the books. A lot of craziness, a lot of upsets, things people didn't see coming. This year has already been insane for the NFL. So let's get straight into it. Here is your NFL Week 3 recap. Thursday night started off with the Patriots versus the New York Jets. First game back at MetLife Stadium for Aaron Rodgers since, what happened last year. From start to finish, this one was all Jets. Aaron Rodgers, I said he would have his best game of the season. He definitely did. Went 27 for 35, 281 yards, and 2 passing touchdowns. One of those going to Garrett Wilson. He only had 5 catches for 33 yards, but did find the end zone, which is a good sign. They're starting to click. Breece Hall, been that guy so far this year. He's going to continue to be that number one offensive option for the Jets. 16 carries, 54 yards, and a rushing touchdown. And, of course, getting it done in the passing game as well. 4 receptions for 29 yards. And this guy, some people might not have heard of him, but if you've been watching this year, you definitely know who he is. Braylon Allen, the rookie out of Wisconsin, the running back. Finished with 11 carries, 55 yards. Also added 3 catches and 13 yards. I don't think I'd be crazy in saying that this Jets backfield duo is, if not the best, one of the best running back duos in the NFL. You can make the argument, and I would stand by saying that Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery from the Detroit Lions are the best running back combination in the NFL, but Jets with Hall and Allen, I think they got to be number 2 and could make an argument for number 1. On the Patriots side, a disaster of a game for New England. Jacoby Brissett, 12 for 18, only threw for 98 total yards in this game. Literally the only bright spot for the Patriots in this game was Demario Douglas, probably their number 1 wide receiver, was a little upset with his lack of production and really being involved in the offense the first 2 games. He was busy, got involved in that Thursday night game, 7 catches for 69 yards. Nice game for him. And we saw the debut of rookie quarterback Drake May on, I think it was just the last drive, I believe, for the Patriots. He went 4 for 8, 22 passing yards, had 3 carries for 12 yards. He got hit a couple times, got sacked. I mean, that Jets defense was everywhere in that game. 7 total sacks for the Jets. They come away in a dominant 24-3 win. Jets now 2-1 on the year. Patriots 1-2. And in that game, it was looking like what a lot of people thought they would look like this season. Just not very good. That win against Cincinnati, maybe a fluke, but if you didn't watch the Monday night game, Cincinnati not doing too hot. Unfortunately, I have to break down this game. I am a sports media professional. Chargers, Steelers, both teams coming in 2-0. I have to unfortunately report, because it is my duty, the Los Angeles Chargers now 2-1. The Steelers beat them 20-10 on Sunday. It was the home opener for the Steelers. I was at that game. I was confident in my squad, the Chargers. I knew it would be a close game, low-scoring game. Should have took the under. Told everybody to take the under. I did not take the under once again. But in this game, classic Steelers football, boring offensive scheme, but it got the job done. Steelers relying on their defense, 5 total sacks in this game for Pittsburgh. But got to give it to Justin Fields. I'm a realistic guy just because I completely despise the Steelers. I'm not going to discredit the fact that they outplayed the Chargers in this game. Justin Fields, 245 passing yards, 1 touchdown. Did throw an interception to former Pittsburgh Steeler Bud Dupree, but that drive ended up in nothing for the Chargers on the offensive side. Najee Harris, 18 carries, 70 yards. Kind of did what he had to do on the ground, picked up a couple first downs, but again, nothing too crazy from the Steelers. Play of the game for them was Calvin Austin, 55-yard touchdown in the fourth quarter. He finished with 4 catches for 95 yards, 55 of those coming on that touchdown. He just escaped a couple defenders, and then he's a fast player, so he was able to find the end zone. In last video, I said that neither quarterback was going to throw for 200 yards. That would have been correct if Austin didn't bust out for that big touchdown. Fields with 245, but a good game for him. And if they think about going to Russell Wilson, at least in the near future, that's a crazy coaching decision, and Steelers fans will definitely be upset about that. On the Chargers side, Justin Herbert coming into this one with a high ankle sprain. He did get the start. He went 12 for 18, 125 yards, and a passing touchdown. Couldn't really scramble too much. He was definitely under the most pressure he's been under this season. His one touchdown going to Quentin Johnston. 2 straight games with a touchdown. He's got 3 in his last 2. 2 catches for 44 yards for QJ. J.K. Dobbins finally met his match here in Week 3. 15 carries for 44 yards. He came into this game leading the league in rushing yards. But, Steelers defense is always going to be top 5. Right now they're looking like maybe the best. Haven't given up more than 10 points so far this season. But the kicker for the Chargers, I'm not talking about Cameron Dicker. I'm talking about the lovely injury bug. Chargers fans, you knew this was going to happen, but Week 3 is just too early, especially for the good start to this season. Leaving this game for the Chargers, Justin Herbert, Rashawn Slater, Joe Alt, and Joey Bosa. Just their 4 best players. Leaving that game early, we saw Taylor Heineke, first time in a Chargers uniform on the field. It didn't matter, though. Down 2 scores late in the fourth quarter. Couldn't do too much there. Chargers next week taking on the Chiefs. I guarantee at least 2 out of 4 of those names aren't going to play. Wouldn't doubt if all 4 don't play. And to throw salt on the wound, safety Derwin James is being suspended for only 1 game, and that 1 game, of course, is next week versus the Chiefs. Chargers not looking great going into next week versus KC. Steelers improved to 3-0 with a 20-10 win over the Chargers on Sunday. Vikings-Texans, knew this game would be interesting, thought it would be pretty high scoring. One team lived up to that. Vikings heavily outscoring the Texans in this one. We'll start with Houston coming to this game. No Joe Mixon. Not too big. I mean, he's a very good running back, but the way that this Texans offense is structured wouldn't seem like too big of a loss. Cam Akers got the start for Houston, 9 carries, 21 rushing yards, and he had a receiving touchdown, so he's able to fill that touchdown gap with Joe Mixon being out. But that was the Texans' only touchdown of the game. Stroud, 215 yards, 1 touchdown. To Cam Akers, of course. 2 picks. Diggs, the number 1 receiver in this game, 10 receptions for 94 yards. Led all Texans receivers. Kaimi Fairbairn, last game, I think he had 4 50-plus yard field goals, over 20 fantasy points, I believe. This game, he kicked that extra point on the Cam Akers touchdown. He had 1 field goal attempt, and he missed. Only 7 points for the Texans, which is hard to believe, but Minnesota is looking like the real deal, especially in the NFC. Sam Darnold, 17 for 28, only 181 passing yards, but he didn't turn the ball over, and he had 4 total touchdowns in this one for Minnesota. One of those going to Justin Jefferson in the front corner of the end zone. He finished with 6 catches for 81 yards. Aaron Jones, I think this was a great addition for Minnesota in the offseason. He got hurt a little bit last game. 19 carries, 5 receptions, 148 total yards, and finding the end zone once again. Minnesota, one of the bigger surprises in the NFL this season. They beat the Texans 34-7 and improved to 3-0. I mean, I think they can keep this going. Their offense is super efficient. Might not be the best, most explosive offense in the league, but I'm comfortable saying the most efficient offense in the league. Darnold hasn't turned the ball over, and they're clicking on all cylinders, throwing to multiple receivers every game. Aaron Jones out of the backfield has been great. Definitely watch out for the Minnesota Vikings. Eagles-Saints, this one was expected to be a great matchup. Saints coming into this one 2-0, scoring 91 points in those first 2 wins. The Eagles coming in at 1-1. Jalen Hurts, 29 for 38, 311 passing yards. Didn't have a passing touchdown, threw an interception. He did run the ball 8 times for 25 yards. Solid game for him, but nothing special. Don't let the 311 passing yards deceive you. But it was their guy, Saquon Barkley, 17 carries, 147 yards, and 2 more touchdowns for Saquon in this one. He's been an absolute freak for Philly so far this season. Probably the best offseason addition to any team. I can confidently say that. He's been that number one guy, the most dangerous guy in the NFL. On the receiving side, a couple receivers having a nice day, but how about Dallas Goedert, the tight end for Philadelphia? 10 catches, 170 receiving yards. I needed him to have 40 last week to win like $122. So, of course, he comes back this week with 5 times the amount that he had last week, finishing with 170. Great game for Goddard. On the Saints side, Derek Carr's been playing a safe game at quarterback so far this year. Nothing too crazy. He's had a couple deep passes to Rashid Shaheed through the first 2 weeks that have really gotten the Saints going. This one, he went 14 for 25, 142 yards, only 1 touchdown, and did throw an interception, something that he didn't do through the first 2 weeks. That Eagles defense was getting after him. They stood tall, only giving up 12 points to the Saints. Kamara, heavy workload again for him. 26 total carries, only had 87 rushing yards, 3 receptions for 40 yards, so another 100-plus total yard game for him. I expect nothing less throughout the season. Chris Olave, his best game as a Saint so far this season. 6 catches, 86 yards, and finding the end zone for the first time this season. Rashid Shaheed, a lot of people either picking him up or getting him to start this week in fantasy, especially because the week last week that Drake London and Darnell Mooney had against that Eagles secondary. Shaheed, he got targeted 5 times, but 0 catches for 0 yards. A lot of people upset with his performance in week 2. But hey, he's not going to score a 60-yard touchdown every week. Saints losing their first game on the year. Eagles winning this one 15-12. Maybe the biggest surprise of week 3, the Denver Broncos going into Tampa Bay with an 0-2 record, taking down the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Bo Nix, probably his best game of the season so far. He went 25 for 36, only 216 passing yards. Didn't have an interception, didn't have a passing touchdown, but he's been finding success with his legs so far this season. He got another rushing touchdown in this one. And speaking of rushing, but I don't think the Broncos, know what they're doing with their backfield. But in this game, Tyler Batty, the leading rusher for Denver, 9 carries for 70 yards. I thought Javonte Williams would have a solid year, especially with a rookie quarterback, might get some dump-off passes or more carries, but that's not been the case, and maybe the Broncos figured something out here against the Buccaneers. Receiving-wise, Courtland Sutton, who I expected to be Knick's certified number 1 target. He's been pretty quiet this season so far, but in this game, 7 catches for 68 yards. But the Broncos' defense really stepped up in this one, applying pressure to Baker Mayfield all game. 7 total sacks in this one. That defense only had 4 sacks in the first 2 games combined. So the defense stepped up. The whole team kind of just clicked together in this one. On Buccaneers side, Baker Mayfield, after a gorgeous week 1, impressed a lot of people, including myself. But I know that he has that in him. But the last 2 weeks have not been the same. In this one, 25 for 33, only 163 passing yards, did have a touchdown, and did throw an interception. Again, the Broncos defense making a difference for them. Chris Godwin, 6 catches, 53 yards, and had that lone touchdown from Baker. He has been on fire to start the season for Tampa Bay. Mike Evans, 2 catches for 17 yards. If you know me, I hate Mike Evans, and this year he has been just about a bust. A lot of weapons on this Tampa Bay offense. But we saw Bucky Irving, the rookie out of Oregon, 9 carries for 70 yards. He took the lead in the backfield for Tampa Bay in this game. Rachaad White last year was honestly one of the best running backs in the NFL. He can run the ball, catch the ball. He's very good out of the backfield, especially last year for Tampa. White has 66 rushing yards all year through the first 3 games. Bucky Irving, 70 total yards already. A lot of people were high on him going into the season. I figured he would have a decent year for a rookie, but playing behind Rachaad White, I don't know how much playing time and opportunity he would get, but he made the most of it in this game, despite the loss. But career game for Bucky Irving in this one. But Denver on the road, 26-7 over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Green Bay Packers and the Tennessee Titans. This one, some question marks coming into the game. Jordan Love getting hurt in that Week 1 matchup versus the Eagles. There was rumors and reports that he was practicing all week, could have the possibility of starting this game, but the Packers decided not to start Love. They went back to Malik Willis, the guy that the Titans drafted a couple years ago. Didn't really get any opportunity in Tennessee. He's getting the opportunity in Green Bay, and he definitely showed out in this one on Sunday. 13 for 19, 202 yards, 1 passing touchdown, 0 interceptions. A decent game passing for him. He didn't do anything crazy, but didn't do anything negative for Green Bay. But the day for him, 6 carries for 73 yards and a rushing touchdown. I said last week he ran a lot in college, and he's definitely capable of doing it at the next level in the NFL. And he proved me right in Week 3. 73 total rushing yards and a rushing touchdown for Willis. And Emmanuel Wilson kind of took the lead in the backfield for Green Bay in this game. 12 carries for 50 yards. He had 9 carries in the first 2 games combined. He looked good in this game for Green Bay, as Josh Jacobs did have more carries. He had 14, but only 43 yards total. They switched it up a little bit. Different type of a running game, getting Malik Willis involved more and another running back in Emmanuel Wilson, and that offense looked good. 7 different receivers with a catch for Malik Willis, just spreading the ball around the field, and if he can do that, that's pretty dangerous because he's not a rookie, but rookie or young quarterbacks like to, stick to that number 1 guy, throw safe throws to tight ends and running backs, and Willis has not really been doing that in his time playing so far this season. Jaden Reed was the number 1 option in this one, though, for Willis. 6 targets, only 4 catches, but 50 yards for Reed. It was Willis's legs that got the job done for Green Bay. And that defense for Green Bay was a huge part of this win for the Packers. 8 sacks, and Jair Alexander, a pick 6 off of Will Levis, kind of just put the icing on the cake for them. Levis still at 260 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, but this has been his problem all year. 2 interceptions, including that pick 6, and a fumble lost for Levis. I say it in every video I've made, whether it's YouTube or TikTok. I thought Will Levis would be a good quarterback, a really good quarterback this year. I don't know why, but he's been putting up the yards, but his decision-making is just god-awful, and he has to clean that up if he doesn't want to get benched for the backup Mason Rudolph. DeAndre Hopkins did have his best game of the season, though, for Tennessee. 6 catches, 73 yards, and one of those touchdowns from Will Levis. But Malik Willis, too good of a game. Defense, definitely too good of a game for Green Bay. Packers win this one 30-14, go to 2-1. Tennessee Titans now 0-3. Giants and Browns, I don't know what the hell happened in this game. Everyone thought that the Browns defense would... no one thought this game would be a good game, obviously, but people thought the Browns defense would be good enough and Deshaun Watson maybe could play well enough to help the Browns win this game, but that definitely was not the case. Daniel Jones, back-to-back, I'll say great games for him. This one, he was 24 for 34, 236 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and once again, 0 interceptions for Daniel Jones. You don't know how important that is for the New York Giants, because Daniel Jones, frankly, is a terrible quarterback, but the last 2 weeks he's been the shining light for the New York Giants organization. Maybe other than the fact that Malik Neighbors, I don't know if he fixed Jones's problems, but back-to-back great weeks for Neighbors. This one, 8 catches, 78 yards, 2 touchdowns for Neighbors, and him and I think Wan'Dale Robinson are competing for that number 1 option. Robinson, again, back-to-back good weeks, 7 catches for 61 yards in this game. Devin Singletary got it going on the ground, 16 carries, 65 yards, and another rushing touchdown. He did fumble, but it wasn't too costly. something's happened with the New York Giants offense. Are clicking and throwing the ball, running the ball, limiting turnovers, which has always been the problem. And the defense in this one, 8 sacks. Deshaun Watson was under so much pressure in this game that he couldn't really do anything besides throw it to his guy, Amari Cooper, who had his best game of the season. Cooper, 7 catches, 86 yards, 2 touchdowns. Watson finished 21 for 37, 196 yards. Those 2 passing touchdowns. Didn't have an interception, but he did fumble twice. And you'll see in a TikTok that I'm going to come out with my overreactions and non-overreactions for week 3. Not an overreaction. I'm putting Deshaun Watson should just retire. It's not that he's old, but ever since all these sexual assault allegations and all of his charges and court cases and whatnot, or whatever he's going through, he literally hasn't had a single game where he's played well. And if you're a fan of him, you just can't defend him anymore because he is not a good quarterback. I think his life is basically ruined, to put it frankly. I think the dude should just retire. Let Jameis Winston go in there for this season at least, and it'll be more entertaining because Deshaun Watson sucks. Outside of throwing the ball to Amari Cooper, this offense was terrible. Giants win 21-15. Both teams now 1-2. Speaking of that TikTok page, TC Talk Sports, go give that a follow. There's some good stuff on there, stuff that'll make you laugh, stuff that'll probably piss you off, especially if you're a passionate sports fan, and you might learn a little bit. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. I'll be doing more long-form stuff on here, these weekly NFL recaps. NBA is just around the corner. I'll be doing a preview for every single team, some players, some stuff to look out for in this next season. Because it's all sports all the time right here on TC Talk Sports. Bears and Colts coming into this one. I knew this one would be a shit show, a sloppy game as I described it as. Best game of the year, maybe for Caleb Williams. He threw his first touchdown of the season. He went 33 for 52, 363 passing yards. Obviously, career high for him, 2 passing touchdowns. But he did have 2 interceptions and a fumble. Don't let those passing yards and passing touchdowns deceive you that he's still not having a good year. And I think at this point it's going to take him over a year to find his groove and prove why he was the number 1 overall pick. DeAndre Swift, I don't know what the hell happened to him. 13 carries for 20 yards in this game. All year he has a total of 32 carries for 54 yards. That's it. He was a weapon in Philadelphia, and he's looking like the biggest bust of a player ever in the Chicago offense. Now, granted, this offensive line is god-awful. That one pitch or option play to him that they ran to the left, literally every offensive lineman was laying on the ground, and every Colts defender was all over him. So it's not all completely his fault. That goes with Caleb Williams, too. That offensive line is the worst thing I have seen in a long time. But Rome Odunze, the rookie from Washington, obviously his best game of the year. 6 catches, 112 yards, and had one of those touchdowns from Caleb Williams. So he was getting it done on the outside. Cole Kmet, 10 catches, 97 yards, and a touchdown. On the Colts side, Anthony Richardson. I said something on TikTok last week that he'll probably be benched by week 5, and people were trying to defend that he's good. This week, continuing to prove my point, 10 for 20, 167 passing yards. Didn't have a touchdown through 2 picks, including that embarrassing one in the end zone. Sorry, he's got me rattled, but he threw a bomb to Alec Pierce, his only catch of the game. They get down inside the 5-yard line. Richardson scrambles and just tosses the ball into the end zone right to a Bears defender for the pick. I mean, he's not that guy there. They got Joe Flacco, veteran quarterback, obviously. Put him in for a couple games. Let AR learn from him. Just Richardson, a D- of a season so far for him. But luckily they have Jonathan Taylor. He had 23 carries in this game, 110 yards, found the end zone twice. He's proved to be a top 5 running back in the league again this year. When he gets the ball this year, he's making things happen for the Colts. Great year so far for him. And how about Michael Pittman? 4 catches, 36 yards, a season high in receiving yards. Idiots like myself thought he would have a big year. Also depending on Anthony Richardson having a big year. I got Pittman for over 1,250 yards in a parlay, which that bet is just looking god-awful anyways. But season high in receiving yards, 36 for Michael Pittman. That offense was enough. Jonathan Taylor carrying this team so far. Colts picking up their first win, winning 21-16 over Chicago. Panthers and the Raiders, how about this one? Bryce Young getting benched for the Red Rifle, Andy Dalton, and he looked elite with a capital E. Raiders coming off a great come-from-behind win versus the Ravens last week. I don't think people knew what to think about this team, but they did not look good in this one, or the Panthers somehow looked really good. Gardner Minshew in this one, 18 for 28, 214 yards, a touchdown, and a pretty bad interception for him. He was benched with 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. They're bringing back up Aiden O'Connell, who honestly hasn't been too terrible for the Raiders last year whenever they had to bring him in. He went 9 for 12, 82 yards, and a touchdown in this one. That touchdown going to Trey Tucker. He had 7 catches, 96 yards. Devontae Adams having another stinker. He had 9 targets, only brought in 4 catches for 40 yards. A lot of people thought this was the make it or break it game for running back Zamir White. Alexander Madison has honestly looked like that number 1 running back. Zamir White in this game, 10 carries for 34 yards. He was expected to have a big game, especially against this terrible Panthers defense. But just nothing going for White, and at the end of last year, he was looking really good. Raiders fans were real excited about him, putting him in amongst the top in rushing yards and touchdowns, and he has done absolutely nothing this year for the Raiders. But let's talk about the Carolina Panthers getting their first win on the season, putting up 36 total points. Panthers fans, you better be sending baskets, love letters to Andy Dalton's house. 26 for 37, 319 passing yards, and 3 touchdowns. Panthers in the offseason went out and got former Steelers receiver Deontay Johnson. 8 catches, 122 yards, and 1 of those touchdowns. Obviously his best game on the season for the Panthers. But bad news for Panthers fans, Adam Thielen did score a touchdown, but did go down with an injury, left the game. Don't really know the severity of it, but me personally hoping he's back out there on the field. He's one of my favorite players to watch. And Chuba Hubbard, 21 carries, 114 rushing yards. He had 5 catches for 55 yards and a touchdown. This came out of nowhere for Carolina as well. I guess that's just the Andy Dalton effect. He came in and this offense absolutely flourished against the Raiders, who don't have a bad defense, but definitely not a good defense. Again, Panthers putting up 36 points and winning 36-22. Raiders 1-2, Panthers 1-2. The Miami Dolphins versus the Seattle Seahawks. I figured the Seahawks would win this game. I don't know why I didn't put $1 billion on them. Miami coming into this game, obviously, without Tua, and looks like these receivers, Hill and Jalen Waddle, are nothing without Tua. They need somebody to underthrow those deep balls to him so they can make long catches and run really far, because Skylar Thompson, he's just not it for Miami. He went 13 for 19, 107 total yards. He did get injured in the third quarter. We got a Tim Boyle appearance for the Dolphins. He went 7 for 13 and finished with 79 passing yards, but it wasn't just the quarterback. I mean, this team had 0 offense in this game. Tyreek Hill, 3 catches for 40 yards. Devon A-Chain, 11 carries, had 3 receptions, only 58 total yards. I mean, he can only do so much. We saw it against the Bills. He had a very explosive game. Great game for him, but in this one, just got completely shut down. Seahawks looking like the Legion of Boom defense again. 6 total sacks for them, but it's the Seahawks offense that has propelled this team to a now 3-0 record. Geno Smith, 26 for 34, 289 passing yards, had 1 touchdown, but did throw 2 interceptions. Luckily, this game wasn't close for those to matter. But another big passing game for Geno Smith. Most of that going to DK Metcalf. Only finished with 4 catches, had a 71-yard touchdown. That's now back-to-back weeks with 50-plus yard touchdowns. Finished with 104 total yards. But Zach Charbonnet replacing Kenneth Walker, who has proven to be a super solid running back. I'm not going to say he's top 5 or top 10. He might be top 10, but Charbonnet replacing him the last 2 weeks. In this game, Charbonnet, 18 carries, 91 rushing yards, and he found the end zone twice for Seattle. Seahawks win this one 24-3. If you're an idiot like me and you bet on the Dolphins to win their division, that one's not looking great because Bills are looking like the Super Bowl favorites. But Skylar Thompson ain't it, and I highly doubt Tim Boyle is going to be the solution for them. They go to 1-2 now on the year. Cowboys, Ravens. This one was probably listed as the game of the week. Again, I didn't get to watch it because I was at the stupid Chargers at the stupid Steelers game. But a huge matchup here for two struggling teams so far this season, and unexpectedly struggling. I thought the Ravens could have a shot at winning the AFC North, but it's honestly a coin flip every year. I bet on the Cowboys also to win the NFC East, and right now they are in last. But in this one, Lamar Jackson, 12 for 15, 182 passing yards, and a passing touchdown. But this game was on the ground for Baltimore. I mean, just burying the Cowboys with the run game. Lamar, 14 carries for 87 yards and a rushing touchdown. And did you forget the name Derrick Henry, acquired in the offseason by Baltimore? 25 carries this game, 151 rushing yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns for the King, proving to be the perfect nickname for him. Dallas Cowboys were trailing 28-6 until 8:53 in the fourth quarter. They were able to make this kind of close, recovered an onside kick after their final touchdown, but obviously not able to do anything with that. Dak Prescott in this one, 379 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, didn't turn the ball over. Offense didn't look terrible for Dallas. They just couldn't score, and their defense was abysmal in this one versus Baltimore. Coming into this one, I said Dak would have his best game of the season. I would say that he did. I said the whole offense would click as a whole, but I still don't think that's the case. I don't know what's missing for them, what's going wrong, but problem here is definitely the defense. Gave up 28 points and gave up 28 points early. So a tough hole to dig out of for Dallas again. But Dak finding some different receivers in this one. Kevontae Turpin had 3 catches for 51 yards and one of those 2 touchdowns from Dak. Jalen Tolbert, 3 catches for 42 yards and a touchdown. Last week I said that Tolbert might be that number 2 receiver for Dallas behind CeeDee Lamb, who also didn't have a great game for Dallas. And clip, I'm sure everyone saw it, of him just his frustrations coming out on Dak Prescott in this one. Jake Ferguson back in the lineup for Dallas, 6 catches, 95 yards. He was one of the top tight ends last season, expect to have a big year this year. The running game is virtually non-existent for Dallas. Ezekiel Elliott kind of took the lead the first 2 weeks. Rico Dowdle in this one led the team with 8 carries, but only 32 rushing yards. They have to figure out that running game. When this Cowboys team was most dangerous, it was a couple years ago when Zeke could actually run the ball and he wasn't fat. Just too much on Dak's plate right now, and wasn't enough in this game. Almost completed the comeback, but ended up losing this one 28-25 to Baltimore. Both teams now 1-2, 2 of the more surprising teams so far this season. Lions-Cardinals, coming into this game, a lot of people high on the Arizona offense. I was not one of them, and I'm still not buying into the Arizona Cardinals, so thank God the Lions won this one. Marvin Harrison Jr., a huge game last week for Arizona, over 100 yards on only 4 catches and 2 touchdowns. But Kyler Murray not backing up his play last game. This game, he went 21 for 34, only 207 passing yards. Did find Marv again for a touchdown, but Kyler did throw an interception. Running-wise, he's always going to be a good scrambler, 5 carries for 45 yards. Cardinals were relying on the passing game in this one. Harrison, with that touchdown, added 5 catches and 64 yards. And Michael Wilson, leading receiver in this game, 8 catches for 64 yards. But again, I mentioned at the beginning of this, the best, I'll just come out and say it, the best running back duo. I was trying to be a little clever, whatever you want to call it, saying Braylon Allen and Breece Hall are the best running back duo in the league, but it is David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, and once again, it proved in this one. Last week, Jahmyr Gibbs had more carries. This week, Monty took the lead again, 23 carries, 105 yards, and a touchdown for him, But Gibbs, not far behind, 16 carries for 83 yards and a touchdown. Came on that hook and ladder play. Great play call on that one. Lions only putting up 20 points, but the offense looked good. Goff, 18 for 23, almost completed all of his passes for 199 yards, 2 touchdowns. Did throw a pick, but not too big of a concern there. Amon-Ra St. Brown, another solid game for him. 7 catches, 75 yards, and a touchdown. Lions look good. Defense held strong once again. Lions go to 2-1 with a 20-13 win over the Cardinals. All of you who were in love with the Cardinals after that big win versus the Rams, welcome back to earth. They dropped to 1-2. 49ers, Rams, maybe one of the better games of Week 3 as well. Both teams dealing with a lot of injuries. 49ers, really Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, and of course Christian McCaffrey still out with that injury. But he's getting some work done, therapy or whatever it was in Germany, so we'll see how that turns out for him. The Rams were down 21-7 with 7 minutes left in the third quarter. Matt Stafford and the Los Angeles Rams making a hell of a comeback. Their first win on the year. Stafford, 221 total yards, only 1 touchdown, but he didn't throw an interception. A pretty clean game for him. But of course, with honestly most of the offensive starters out in this one, Kyren Williams carrying the load for the Rams, 24 carries, 89 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, had 2 catches out of the backfield as well, 27 receiving yards, and a receiving touchdown. Tutu Atwell, who I thought would step up in a good spot here for the Rams. Only 4 catches, but finished with 93 total yards. He's one of the more experienced receivers they have on that side, trying to make up for the injuries with Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. On the 49ers side, Brock Purdy, 292 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions. So a very good game for him, especially dealing with the lack of those stars on the offensive side. Jordan Mason, 19 carries for 77 yards. Solid game for him, but nothing crazy. Speaking of crazy, Jauan Jennings. He's a receiver on the 49ers. Casual fans should know that, but if not, they saw him come up big time in this one. 11 catches, 175 yards. Not 1, not 2, 3 touchdowns for the veteran Jauan Jennings. He's a good receiver. He kind of just gets buried within all the stars on this 49ers team. Brandon Ayuk, a couple catches for like 40 yards. He has been nothing short of a disappointment so far for the Niners. But the Rams getting their first win on the year. Josh Carty, game-winning 37-yard field goal. Rams take down the 49ers 27-24. Both teams now 1-2. Sunday Night Football, Kansas City Chiefs versus the Atlanta Falcons. Isaiah Pacheco out in this game for KC, and he'll be out for a while. They give Carson Steele most of the carries in the backfield in this one, 17 carries for 72 yards. I mean, a decent game for him getting his first start in the NFL. Good on him. Mahomes, not a great game by him, 26 for 39, 217 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, and 1 interception for Mahomes. But it's Rashee Rice, who probably should be suspended and not playing right now, but he has definitely been that number 1 option for KC this season. He had another great game, 12 catches, 110 yards, and he found the end zone. Juju Smith-Schuster, yes, he does play for the Chiefs again. He had 2 catches, only 17 yards, but he somehow scored a touchdown. Chiefs, again, just showing that they can use anybody on the field to score a touchdown, except for Travis Kelce, I guess. Finished this one with 4 catches for 30 yards. It was only a matter of time before people started complaining about it and stuff coming out about the frustrations within that team for him. But post-game press conference, Mahomes said they're drawing up a lot of plays. They're calling a lot of plays for Kelce. He's just not getting the ball and not having the Travis Kelce type year that everyone is accustomed to. Atlanta side, Kirk Cousins trying to do his best here. Trying to do his best. It's hard to play against the Chiefs and the refs. Everyone saw the clip of the pass interference no call in the end zone. I think it was pass interference. The one last week against the Bengals, I think, was pass interference, and they did call it. A lot of people upset with that one, but I think that one was a pass interference that they did call. This one, they did not call it against the Chiefs, but Kirk finished 20 for 29, 230 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Bijan Robinson kind of disappeared in this game where they were going to need him the most. 16 carries, 2 receptions, only had 52 total yards, so not a big game that Falcons fans are hoping to see this season. But Drake London again, appearing as that number 1 receiver, 6 catches for 67 yards and a touchdown. He's gaining that chemistry, gaining that trust with his new quarterback, Kirk Cousins, and I think it's only going to get better for those two and Atlanta this season. But how about Darnell Mooney? 8 catches for 66 yards. He had a big game last week versus the Eagles. Drake London, obviously, I think he'll be that number 1, but Darnell Mooney is coming out as this number 2. Kyle Pitts is, I don't know what his deal is, if quarterbacks don't like him, offensive coordinators don't like him, but he is such a bust right now for Atlanta and has been since he's drafted. Kind of sad to see because he is super talented, but he's just not working out in Atlanta. Tough loss for the Falcons in this one. Chiefs winning 22-17. Of course, back on top of the AFC West with a 3-0 record. Falcons now 1-2. On the Monday Night Football, and holy shit, we had some games Monday night. 2 at once, Bills and Jaguars starting a little bit earlier and basically ended before the Bengals and Commanders game started. The Bills were up 34-3 at halftime in this one. Another thing I say in every single video I make, Trevor Lawrence sucks. Don't you dare look up Trevor Lawrence and Daniel Jones stats. They're basically identical, and a lot of people say that Daniel Jones is the worst quarterback in the NFL. Well, it seems as Trevor Lawrence is getting mighty close to their 8 straight losses for T-Law, the next Peyton Manning. But congratulations to him for actually robbing a professional sports organization, signing that huge contract with the Jaguars. I mean, I wonder if he actually cares that he sucks and the team's losing, or that he can buy whatever he wants and see if money can buy his happiness. Sorry. Back to the stats, back to the stuff that actually matters. Lawrence in this one, 21 for 38, 178 yards, a touchdown, and threw an interception to none other than Damar Hamlin. I mean, he's collecting headlines so far this year for him. Christian Kirk, who should be the number 1 receiver for the Jaguars, had his best game of the year, 8 catches for 79 yards. Travis Etienne, not much going for him in this one. 11 carries, 4 catches, only 85 total yards. I mean, not a terrible game, but people are expected to see him with 100-plus yards every game. But that Bills defense just too much. Brian Thomas, who was making his case for that number 1 receiver through the first 2 weeks, I think he'll just be that number 2 guy in Jacksonville. Nothing wrong with that being a rookie, especially when your quarterback stinks. But he had 5 catches for 48 yards. Again, not a terrible game. Not a lot of people expected him to have a big year this year, but he's having a good year through 3 weeks so far for Jacksonville. But if you want offensive numbers, you go over to the Buffalo Bills side in this one. Josh Allen, 23 for 30, 263 passing yards, 4 passing touchdowns, 0 interceptions, a couple rushing yards. That's now back-to-back games where he has relied more on his arm than his legs, which is kind of crazy to see because we're used to seeing fumbles behind the line of scrimmage or stupid interceptions, and we haven't seen that so far out of Josh Allen this year, and this Josh Allen is looking really scary. This Buffalo Bills team is looking really scary. As of right now, I'd say Josh Allen is the MVP of the league, but who knows? Some of those boneheaded plays could come back later on in the season, but right now, that is not that case. James Cook, 11 carries for Buffalo, 4 receptions, 87 total yards. Did find the end zone. Surprise, surprise. He was the first touchdown of the game. Khalil Shakir, he's the number 1 receiver in Buffalo. 6 catches, 72 yards, and a touchdown. And finding the end zone for the first time this season was rookie Keon Coleman. Maybe some frustration among him and Buffalo fans of his production. That was his only catch of the game. Came from 24 yards out, but a positive sign for him and that team. The last 2 videos, I said that, fantasy owners of some of these Bills receivers outside of Shakir shouldn't be worried about Josh Allen throwing to a bunch of receivers. First game, I think he threw to 9 different guys. Last week, he threw to like 10. And I said, he won't be spraying the ball around the field that much. Well, I can accept that I was wrong on that one. 10 different players with a reception in this game for Buffalo. Even Ray Davis getting involved. He found the end zone for Buffalo, but a complete blowout for Buffalo in this one. 47-10 over Jacksonville. Jacksonville now 0-3 as they should be, and the Bills 3-0. Josh Allen looking like the MVP. Bills looking like serious Super Bowl contenders through 3 weeks. Final game of the night. Again, what a treat for us on Monday Night Football. The Washington Commanders going into Cincinnati. Bengals coming off of that tough loss versus the Chiefs in Week 2. Trying to get back in the winning column, or get in the winning column for the first time this year. An embarrassing loss versus the Patriots in Week 1. Coming into this one, Commanders beating the Giants last week. Didn't score a touchdown. 7 field goals from Austin Seibert. Strange win for them, but a win's a win. Had some confidence coming into this one on the road. Tough place to play in the jungle. Jaden Daniels, at this point, I think he's going to walk away this season the Rookie of the Year. In this one, 21 for 23 passing for 254 yards. That is a 91% completion. I think it was the best from a rookie or whatever stat they had on the screen. Best completion percentage from a rookie of all time or whatever it was. Threw 2 passing touchdowns. Didn't have an interception, and of course, getting it done with his legs. 12 carries for 39 yards. Doing what he has to do. He's looking real good. He's looking very Lamar Jackson-esque, and if you're a Washington Commanders fan, which I'm slowly turning into, Jaden Daniels is looking good, and if he's looking like Lamar Jackson, that's an MVP caliber player that can lead a team to the playoffs. Terry McLaurin, he has risen once again, having a quarterback that can throw him a deep ball. 4 catches for exactly 100 yards. 55 of that came on his first touchdown of the year. I took him for over 1,200 receiving yards this year because I thought Jaden Daniels could be a good quarterback and throw the ball deep, and that pass looked beautiful. Daniels, a lot of great passes in this game. Austin Eckler got involved more for the Commanders, 57 total yards, found the end zone. He's back on that kick return team. He almost broke one open for a touchdown. He got about to the Bengals' 30-yard line, but he looked good in that game, unfortunately. But Jaden Daniels is going to be a fan favorite amongst just casual NFL fans. Even if you're not a fan of the Commanders, you can't not like this guy. He looked super good in this game. Joe Burrow, 24 for 38, 324 passing yards. He had 3 touchdowns for him, no interceptions. His best game of the season so far. But most of that coming in the second half, playing from behind. Bengals were down 21-13 at halftime. Commanders just looked great in that first half. Bengals were moving the ball, but just couldn't get the ball into the end zone. Jamar Chase did score the first touchdown of the game. He finished with 6 catches, 118 yards, and 2 total touchdowns. He looked better out there running routes, catching balls, and Joe Burrow was getting it to him more frequently, and they're going to have to do that a lot this year, especially playing in an 0-3 hole because, yes, the Bengals are now 0-3, losing this one 38-33 to the Washington Commanders. Yosivas for the Bengals, he found the end zone again. That's now 3 total touchdowns for him. He had 5 catches for 52 yards total in this game. Hit a nice toe drag catch along the sideline in the fourth quarter. He's looking like that number 2 guy. T. Higgins was injured the first 2 weeks, played this game. Didn't really have much going for him. But as of right now, Yosivas is looking like the number 2 guy for Cincinnati. Maybe Mike Gesicki as well. He had a solid game, tight end for Cincinnati. But how about the Washington Commanders, 2-1, making the Bengals 0-3. I mean, this was a great game, a beautiful game out of Jaden Daniels. I can't stress that enough. What the hell? I'm going to go ahead and say it right now. Jaden Daniels, Rookie of the Year. We're only in Week 3, but I'm going to put it on camera. It's official. Daniels is going to win Rookie of the Year because it's definitely not going to be Caleb Williams unless he has some sort of huge second half of the season, which I don't see happening, especially because that offensive line is so terrible. NFL Week 3 in the books. What a week it was. Again, more upsets. Commanders over the Bengals. Broncos over the Buccaneers. A lot of good football being played. A lot of good defense. Some of the stars are playing well, and it's some of the more low-key guys that have had to step up for their teams that are playing well. Like the Seahawks 3-0, Commanders 2-1. I think big storyline. Buffalo Bills looking like Super Bowl favorites as of right now. Josh Allen, I think, should be in first as of right now for MVP voting. I don't really know who else would be up there for him, but what a year it's already been in the NFL. If you missed any of the action, week 1, week 2, week 3, you come right here to this YouTube channel, TC Talk Sports. You're going to want to hit that subscribe button, like and share with your friends, your neighbors, your mom, your dad, grandparents, cousins, friends, enemies, local school bullies, anybody, because we're giving you the information you need to know week by week here on TC Talk Sports YouTube channel. NBA basketball will be starting soon. I'll be putting out a lot of basketball content. I love basketball. But as of right now, we're hitting NFL football hard. TC Talk Sports on TikTok. You're going to want to follow that page as well. A lot of good stuff on there, stuff that'll make you laugh, stuff that'll probably piss you off. I'm pretty good at doing that. And maybe I'll teach you something every here and there. We got baseball, NFL, WNBA, NBA starting up soon. We have it all. That's what we do. Thank you for watching. This has been your NFL Week 3 recap.